it was eye-opening to know, I was just a number. Hey, if you don't take this vaccine, you're not going to have a job anymore.
Hey, it's Ryan, and before we get into today's episode, I want to tell you about something that I finally got done building. It's called Toolbox, and here's what it actually is. It's an AI-powered software that helps you write professional estimates, turn them into jobs, and send invoices when the work's done. Start to finish, one place. Here's why that matters. Most guys I talk to, and I talk to contractors every single day, the work isn't the problem. The back office is. Estimates are on notepads or Excel spreadsheets. Invoices go out late. Sometimes jobs aren't managed properly. That's where Toolbox becomes your answer. All you have to do is literally answer a few questions about jobs, and the AI will build you a clean professional estimate that you can actually send to the customer in the software. They approve it. It becomes a job on your dashboard. You finish the work, flip it into an invoice, get paid. That's it. That's simple. We just opened up, and the early results are actually amazing. One guy has already booked $35,000 in bids in his first 3 days. And now you can try it for free. We're giving you 5 free estimates. It costs you nothing, no credit card required. If you like it, you can sign up and join the founder access price of $39 a month and have direct access to me to give me your feedback so we can continue to improve the software. Head over to toolbox.com. That's TULBOXX.com. Better yet, open the show notes, click the link. It's right there. Let's get into the episode. All right, it's Wednesday. It's another episode of the Skid Steer Nation podcast. As always, your host, Ryan Deemer. This week, we have the pleasure of interviewing Nicholas White. He is the owner of WPM Excavation. They are located up in Maine. And I can't wait to talk to him because it's finally a guy who's been in business 4, 5, 6 years, but he didn't start when he was in his teenage years or his 20s. He waited until 40s. So with that, let's get Nicholas introduced to the show and kick it off. Thanks for coming on today.
Yeah, well, it's afternoon now. Good afternoon. It's nice finally sitting down and talking with you.
Yeah, and you're getting that lovely late, early spring snowfall in the Northeast up there.
It's wild. It just, every year we get to this point of year and you're like, it's finally drying out and we're going to get to work. And not that we don't deal with it and work with it in the winter, but it feels like you're going to be not dealing with snow and then you get one more snow.
We're here in Illinois, right? So it'll be.
So you plow mud.
Yeah, we're here in Illinois. So it'll literally be this time of year, 70, 75 one day, and then 39 the next. It's these air currents are just ridiculous right now. I know. Man, so thanks for taking time coming on the show. I'm excited to talk with you. I've got a little bit of experience with machining, and that is your background was being a machinist, correct?
Yes.
And I can't wait to hear what CAD program, what manager, whatever it was that made you say, I'm out.
Oh no, the story's way longer than that. I would try and fast track it, but I grew up around excavation. My father has done excavation pretty much my entire life. But you've heard from plenty of other people. There's that father-son relationship dynamic, and it took long enough for me to grow up, I guess, to be able to get along with him well enough to work with him, and him to kind of get old enough and calm down so that we could do the same thing. So, as a younger, I remember I had a shotgun or something I wanted to put a scope on and needed the mount modified. So he takes me up to some good old boy he knows up the road, and they put it on a milling machine and they milled a little aluminum off the back. And I thought that was the coolest thing ever. And I was hooked, that's what I want to do. I was probably, 14, 15 years old at the time, but, and then went through there's a Sanford vocational program down the road that teaches machining. And that was kind of probably the only way I was going to make it through high school and get a certificate saying I passed at the end, So And bounced through a couple machining jobs and had a kind of a bad experience. I don't know. It's, self-caused probably a little bit, but decided I was going to go to truck driving school because my whole family does logging or excavating and there's trucks all over, but try and talk someone into taking the time to teach you how to drive. Right. So I got my CDL and then drove over the road for about a year and figured out that wasn't for me. And then ended up working at a couple other factories. Didn't work out, kind of 20s, bounce around, try to figure out what I want to be when I grow up. Drove truck for Coca-Cola, delivering soda, and then the shipyard down here in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, one of the 4 public shipyards. They had this huge apprenticeship program back then where, like 1,000 people would apply and you had to take a test and score high enough on the test. And then if you did that, you could get interviewed. And if you passed the interview, then they tried to place you where you belong. And so I knew a guy that was my neighbor at the time, and he might have had some pull, who knows. But before you know it, I'm accepting a job to go be a machinist apprentice, where I'd already kind of done a year of college and quit that to go work for Pratt & Whitney. And like I said, long story, but at the time, I was pretty much at the top of the pay scale for truck driving at Coca-Cola. And I was starting at the very bottom of the scale as a machinist at for the shipyard. And career-wise, it seemed like a great opportunity at the time, and I was going to make more money. So that was where I went.
Nice. Yeah. And how long? So then you got back into machining. Just were you there for close to 20 years before you ended up starting your own business?
No, it was, so I was there, I want to say I was probably around 25, 26 years old. I went in there and, it was cool. I mean, they do machining that you don't do anywhere else in the world. At one point I was a certified nuclear journeyman machinist working on parts for sub-reactors. It was cool. You don't know how it all works, right? They keep it very compartmentalized so that you don't have any cool nuclear secrets, but I made this widget and it went to something over there. And then worked my way through that, got into being a nuclear inspector for a while, which is, a glorified term for a parts inspector. And, similar to where I am now, all these skills that I'd picked up along the way set me up to go be an engineering technician. So, you're an engineer, but I don't have a piece of paper that says I'm one, but I got paid the same as the other engineers. So as far as I'm concerned, it didn't matter. And then COVID hit. And if you would have asked me, 2019 pre-COVID, what I thought of my job, I'd have told you I had the best job in the world. Hands down. I'd worked myself into a position where I could almost come and go. As long as my work got done, it didn't matter. So it was awesome, and we got one or two little boondoggle trips to either Hawaii or Seattle or whatever other shipyard. Once a year we'd go, and I was setting pretty. I was ready to kind of cruise for a while, and then COVID. And at COVID, we had we had one kid and one on the way, and they shut down the daycare, and I got switched on to second shift, which worked good. My wife was working first. I was watching the kids during the day. I was going to work at night, and somewhere along there, I think I skipped by. I had bought an excavator. So I guess back up a little bit, but around the COVID time, I kind of decided through what was going on at work that even at one point I thought I had a unique skill set in that if things got tough down there and they decided to cut back on manpower, that I would make the cut, and realized that I was a number and that the only person that looks out for you is you, And you don't ever get rich working for someone else. So I had bought some property about 10 minutes from here over in Lebanon, and my father said, "Oh yeah, you take the old excavator I have over there and work the land with it." And it seemed like every weekend I'd go over there, and instead of getting work done, I was working on the excavator. It was broke down or something was wrong with it. It's a old Cabelco that had 11,000 hours on it, and he loves those machines, and they've always been great, but none of them last forever. So my wife had a job working for John Deere Nortrax, and we were friends with everyone that worked there. So I put in a word with one of the sales guys. Hey, if you come across something, let me know. And I got one of the local town machines that was getting traded in, and he says, "Hey, this cannot go to the shop. Like, they can't see this machine. You got to take delivery of it. It's getting on a truck from here, and it's going to your house." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." So I went,
Well, you
looked
can't
at it, and,
you can't beat those township municipality machines. I mean, they sit in the barn a bunch.
No.
Those old timers that are elected to those positions take care of it like it's an old Cadillac. They're great machines.
It's awesome. It's got a heated seat, air conditioner. My father's he loves those Cabelcos, and they've made him a lot of money. And he's until I teamed up with him, I guess he was kind of a one-man band for years. So he like a Cabelco 115, a triaxle dump truck, and a couple other pieces of equipment, and he'd do small house lots and a little bit of here and there, septic systems, whatever. So, yeah, I decided I was sick of working on that old bone he was letting me run, and picked one up, and I could afford it with a little bit of overtime at work, and if I pick up a job here and there, I might as well have someone else pay for it. Why should I? And that was the beginning for my career in excavation, anyways. It's been fun.
That's awesome. Yeah, COVID was a unique time, and I mean, I feel like it's Groundhog's Day because even 5-6 years later, everyone has a COVID story of like whether it be restarting or regrouping, or I mean, there's always something, and it centers around that time frame in our life. And I don't know. I feel like it was in the moment, COVID felt like a curse. But I think there's a lot of people that can look back 5 years now, 6 years, and go, it was probably a blessing because it made me think differently and take different actions.
Oh, it was a catalyst in that sense for sure. Like I had said, it was eye-opening to know, I was just a number. Hey, if you don't take this vaccine, you're not going to have a job anymore. Well,
yeah,
regardless of how you feel on that subject, it is what it is. But it was very, very black and white at that point. Like, if I don't toe the line for this company or for the Department of Defense, honestly, then I'm gonna be without a job. And my wife had a pretty good job at the time, but we weren't gonna survive on either one of just our salaries at the point. And so it was an opportunity as well. A lot of people were, sent home if they were high risk people. So I kind of always felt that, I'm not exactly a specimen of health, but I've always been pretty healthy. And I didn't feel it was a very big risk for me. So I volunteered for every hour of overtime I could get, and made it a point to kill our debt and get into a place where I didn't have to have that salary with overtime in order for us to survive,
Yeah. So you get that excavator, you're tinkering around on your own property, you're working that, you end up buying one. How long after that did you either partner full-time with your dad or start doing your own work for clients? And when did that become the main thing?
Well, so what I ended up with for a machine was it's a 2009 John Deere 200D. So I make the joke it's the smallest machine you need to move with a low bed. So it has, you can buy that size machine pretty reasonable. You go to a 160 and you can move it with a tag trailer behind a dump truck. All of a sudden, every excavation company has a dump truck and a tag trailer, but not every excavation company around here has a low bed with a tractor trailer. So, you can buy them reasonable, and I got a real good deal. But the next part was they changed my roles a little bit at work when I was at the shipyard shortly after the COVID stuff started to blow over, and I told my bosses, this is a new game for me, and if I put as much effort into being good at this job, then and put that effort into my own business, I said I'll make twice as much money, even just this year. I said, you leave me be where I'm at, and I said I'll stay. But if you keep messing, if you make me work too hard, I'm going to put that effort into my own self, And they apparently that didn't sink in. So I told the next thing I was saying at work with my coworkers that I got along great with. I said, as soon as I land a house lot package, I'm gone. I said that's enough to pay me for the summer. And cheat code, right? My father been in business for 40 years. Hey Dad, let's go price this house lot. And this is how we're going to do it. And I can run all the tractors. I've been running tractors since I was a little kid. I can remember him having a little Kubota tractor, a little Kubota mini excavator, and a buddy of his shows up with a single axle dump truck. And they're like, yeah, you just sit up there on the pile of loam and load that dump truck while we're floating around in the pool. And I was probably 12 or 13 years old at the time. So it's a lot of little scoops.
It's a lot of little scoops. I love that. So you landed your first house pad and put your notice in at work, and you're like, shit, I got a real business now. What was that like?
I feel like because of my father, it was easier, because I could lean on him, and he's, he just turned 70 this past December. So, but he grew up on a farm. I bought his house off from him and he's built his house on the corner of his family farm. So we got a lot of family right here. It was, a dairy farm at one point. Now they raise beef cattle, but, it's good, it's a great place for my kids to be, and where, we don't have to actually do all the farming work, but we live on the corner of a farm and see the cows, and it's great. We got plenty of room to go out the back door and go hunting if we want to, or ride four-wheelers, or, it's a good place for kids to be.
Yeah. Love the context, but I want to know about you landing the job and then going, damn, I got a business. And like, what was that process of setting yourself up and then going, I got to find the next job?
Yeah. I'd been doing a little bit of it enough. And then the other pro is I worked at a place that had 10,000 employees, and I walked around and talked to people. That was part of my job. I'm a firm believer. If you want to get something done, you need to talk to someone in person. You can delete an email or ignore a phone call, but when you walk up to someone's desk, they got to answer either yes or no. I'm going to do this for you. That was how I operated. And I try to operate that way now. If you can see someone in person, and it makes a deal easier. But yeah, it's kind of a whirlwind. We got that first job, and that was for a guy that also was in the process of leaving the shipyard, and he was starting his own general contracting business. And so we kind of hooked up for a while, and he'd land another house lot, and we'd go do the excavation for him. And my father and I would team up. I just had that one big excavator at the time. And he has, now between the two of us, we have a tractor buying problem. I don't know who's supposed to run all these things, but we have 6 excavators and couple skid steers and various other equipment. We're really good at buying equipment, that's for sure.
Man, it's like baseball cards when you're a kid, isn't it? It's like, oh, I got this cool card, I want another one. Like it's
yeah. So I did a job. Actually, now that I think of it, I did a big house lot package before I left the shipyard, and then I took every day of vacation that summer and built a retaining wall around this guy's house, and did a pretty good sized house with a nice big garage, and just like I said, just any job we could get, we'd take it. I've watched some of your videos about niching down, and we're not there. We probably should.
Not there yet.
No, it's
Well,
it probably needs to happen, but we
yeah, and but again, like let me ask you a couple questions up based off that comment, if you don't mind. When
yeah.
you say you take anything and everything, if you're doing these, I'm going to take a shot in the dark, $20, $50, $80,000 retaining wall pad packages or more. Are you still entertaining the $1,000 driveway grading job when a lady 40 miles away needs it done?
Well, no.
Then you are niching down like that. Yeah, you kind of are already.
I mean, at the same time, it's nice. Like I said, I've listened to a bunch of your shows now, and these guys talk about growing big and having these employees, and the growing pains associated with it. And we're trying to more run like a low overhead. If the phone doesn't ring this week, it's eventually it gets tight. But if we get a couple good jobs, we're good for a while. And
I'll tell you what, I talk to contractors almost daily, right?
Mm-hmm.
In those conversations we have about growing a business, I have come to the conclusion that like what you and your father are doing and maybe adding one or two more guys because you just need some manual labor, somebody else to run another machine. I feel like that's a perfect setup and you can do very, very well, make great money. Your overhead's not ridiculous. But if you want to grow big, you got to take a massive step backwards for 1 to 3 years because you've got to buy the equipment, the team, the insurance, and that all comes out of the profits until that can become sustainable. So I almost feel like that second crew, maybe even the third crew, feels like a financial step backwards until you can get to that third, fourth, fifth crew. And to me, if you don't want to go through that, cool, stay where you're at because you're doing great.
Right. Well, and I got 3 boys. My stepson, he'll be 11 this year, and then the other 2, they're rambunctious. That's a good way to put them. They'll be 8 and 7 by the end of the year. So we got a house full of chaos. So the only reason we can have this conversation is because they're at school. So.
Yeah. And in a house full of testosterone, your wife's got to love that. Like there's no other estrogen in the house to help balance it out.
Yeah,
it's just
we
pure
got
chaos
dog.
all day.
That's about it.
Yeah, that's it.
So
you ever, I don't know if you're into sport. I mean, you're in the Northeast, so this probably resonates with you, but I watch those stories about like Rob Gronkowski and his brothers.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel for their mother so much. I can't imagine being the woman in the house with those boys and their dad. I can't do it.
Yeah, no, Carrie, my wife, she's funny. She goes, I never really pictured myself as a boy mom. I'm like, well, you're committed now. We're done having kids, and I was joking. So, well, if we have another kid, we're getting a third income because it's not going to be mine because we have that problem fixed. So
it was actually funny. In my house, my mom was A-okay having all boys, but my dad was the one that pouted that he never had a girl.
Oh yeah, I have all kinds of buddies that have girls, and it changes them. I don't know if it's for the better or worse. Probably better for them, but
yeah, I don't have any kids. No, I was just gonna say we never had kids. We didn't have the ability to have children, and just being around like my nieces or my friends' girls, I know it. I'm like, I would have been a pile of ice cream if I would have had a daughter. Like, you want it? Yeah. Absolutely. Oh, I'm breaking her heart. How do I fix it? I would have been a pile of ice cream.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard enough just with kids in general.
Yeah.
I hear that. They're my buddy, good friend of mine, he's got a daughter, and they do stock car racing, and the daughter is, I think she'll be 5 at the end of this year. And, she's already got go-karts and mini snowmobiles, and everything she rides is wide open. And I was like, Bobby, I love her. She's great. He sends me videos of her, and she only has one speed, wide open. 4-wheelers, snowmobiles,
wide open.
She's riding is wide open. I said, you got a racer on your hands. You got exactly what you wanted. It might not be a boy, but hope you enjoyed what you did for racing, because up here, the way our rules work, my kids, we did go-kart racing last year, and 5 years old by January 1st, and you're ready to go. So come next year, he's going to be into it. He just doesn't.
He's going to be into it. Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So, hey, quick break. Just want to come back to Toolbox for a second. If you're the guy who owns the business, does the work, and is trying to figure out the billing at the end of the day, this was built for you specifically. Any trade, any contractor. Share it with your friends who are painters, electricians, plumbers, HVACs. Here's what it actually does. You open it up, answer a few questions about the job. The AI writes a professional estimate for you. It's not a number on a napkin. You can email it directly from the system. Works that smooth. Go check it out. Toolbox.com. Links in the description below. Let's talk about your business a little bit more. I mean, I think we talked about just that whole idea, like what success looks like to individual people, whether it's growing and scaling a massive company or just finding that sweet spot that works for you. It sounds like you're leaning towards that sweet spot and you may or may not already be there. Is that a fair assessment?
I think I've got another probably couple years of my father being a meaningful contributor as far as his ability to work a full day. He's got a little too much of that farmer in him. He's funny. We'll go start a job, and I'm like, hey, I gotta bail at 2 because I gotta do something with the kids. And I'm like, just whatever you do, if you get it done, you get it done. If not, no big deal. I'll see him at 6-7 o'clock the next morning. He's like, I worked till 5:30 because I didn't have anything to do. I'm like, well, every time we talk about this, you're gonna slow down. And but you're hammering 10 and 12-hour days. I don't have anything else to do. I know, but you don't have to work till 5:30 every night.
I guarantee you, even when he slows down, he'll be out at a job site just to check it out, poking around, giving you advice when he's 80, 85.
He's got nothing better to do. He has no hobbies. That's his problem.
Right.
Like, you have no hobbies. I'm going to retire. I'm like, what are you going to do? Well, just get in the tractor.
Yeah.
Go dig some dirt or something.
Yeah, it's those guys that say I'm going to retire, and I got Tracy's uncle's the same way. He's like, I'm going to retire. And I'm like, you're never going to retire. Like, you don't know how to retire.
Yeah, I don't want him to. He's if he's not having fun, he's not going to show up. But as long as he's got something, he needs a purpose. So he might as well be working.
Yeah. And let's be honest, retirement can be a curse because if you have nothing else and no hobbies and that, like, you literally just start dying every day a little bit from sitting around feeling depressed. I agree
entirely. Yeah. He might as be working. If you're going to sit on the couch and watch TV, you might as well be sitting in the excavator. I
mean, for what reason? Just to say I'm not working?
Right.
It doesn't make any sense to me. Like, just go work.
He loves tractors. I mean, he's got, out of the 6 excavators, 4 of them are his.
Yeah. The day will come that I have to so-called retire, but I will always be doing something to keep my mind fresh and moving. And
yeah, I can tell from listening to your podcast, your entrepreneurial spirit is not going to quit. You're going to have your fingers in something.
Yeah, it's bad. Like, and I like that, right? It's just about my goal for life, and it was a little off topic. This is more me than you, but my goal in life is to get a couple of these businesses that we've got running autonomously, like through the teams and having very little daily involvement in them. And we're, pretty much there with Skid Steer Nation, and we're getting there with the marketing company. And that gave me the ability to start launching the software that we're launching. And then it's to build build a team that has the passion and drive for what you do. And then let me go come up with crazy, goofy ideas and let these guys blow holes in it or go, shit, this one actually has legs. Let's go try it out. And just kind of have almost like a little incubator that's my own. And it doesn't have, I'm not trying to be Elon Musk or anything like that, but
no, I don't want that kind of fame.
Yeah. I don't know. So, so even, go ahead.
What you're talking about is essentially, what we need to figure out next here is how we're going to take the money that we're, making and get it so that it makes us money. Because, also, as much as we like to work, you can't work forever. And, if I'm not sitting in the excavator or my father's not sitting in the excavator and I don't, if I haven't hired anyone, then it's not making me any money. But if, say we, instead of buying another excavator that two people can't run, maybe we go buy a piece of property and put a rental on it, or maybe, maybe we put it in the stock market and roll the dice on that. Hopefully that grows into something, sooner or later, at 42 years old, you have some sort of long-term plan.
Yeah. And I talked to, again, there's guys that are buying properties and turning them into Airbnbs. There's guys that are buying properties and turning them in just to rentals or flipping in the off season. There's guys that are starting offshoot companies of their businesses. Like for me, if someone said, "Hey, let's go buy some Airbnbs," and I'd be like, "Do you need more than just money? Because if you want me to do any management, any cleaning schedule, any coordinating, that feels like a chore to me, and it doesn't sound fun." So Airbnbs is not my game.
Right. But, having listened to some of this, it seems that you have a pretty good mind for business. And you probably could build a team that could do all that.
But then you still have to oversee it. And what I've learned over 20 some years, Nicholas, is if you don't have a little bit of passion for something,
oh, absolutely,
even if it works, you feel like you created a prison. Like that's And
that's the good thing about the way we're working these days. I'm the jack of all trades, master of none. But the thing that I do enjoy a lot about the way we have our business set up is I don't do the same thing twice. I don't sit in the skid steer and mulching all day, 4 or 5 days a week, however many days you can get away with it without taking a day off to fix the damn thing.
Those guys are a special breed, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's fun. It's wicked cool. It's so cool to just walk up to a tree with that thing and shred it into little chips. It's I bought one because I thought it was cool, and I've managed to keep it busy enough that it justifies owning it. And it's really, I try to line up that type of stuff for the winter when the ground's frozen. You don't really do any damage to the ground, and everything's frozen, so it shatters up nice and fine, and you don't have to worry about getting stuck in the mud because it's frozen. It's great. And it's heated cab and a heated seat, and the radio works, and I can listen to podcasts all day or whatever. That's definitely something for my business. I'd like to get a little more serious about lining that up for next year. Try and find some bigger projects to, hey, this is going to take a week and a half, but if we had, even just a couple of these a month through the winter, it would be better than trying to dig frost or stand out and, and put a leach field in when it's 10 degrees out. It's not fun.
No, not fun at all. No, not fun at all. And my advice to you, and it's just going to be brief. You have to plan a minimum of 90 days in advance. And if you have a little bit of attention in that direction, firm believer that wherever your attention goes, you grow, whether it be positive, negative.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely what I need to do. I guess one of the things I struggle with and I need to do better at is with it just being my father and I, it doesn't take a lot for all of a sudden we've got 2 or 3 months worth of work, right? So then how much effort do you put into trying to find a job to do 3 or 4 months from now, or just get to work and get what you've got in front of you done? That's probably one of the biggest things I've struggled with is, how do we, and if you're working with a general contractor and they're constantly feeding you work, that's good. But, I had a small falling out with the one I was working with, and we're still friends, but he had an expectation, and I said, "Hey, I don't think we're going to be able to do that. The roads are posted, that driveway has a foot of mud in it, but I can't fix it because there's a foot of frost under that foot of mud. So, we need to wait a week or two." And he was in a situation where he, had made a promise that someone was going to be able to move into that house at a certain date, and anyways, it didn't work out. So,
yeah,
is what it is,
and that's. Yeah. And you're not alone in that. I mean, myself included, it's easy to get caught up in today or a couple days in advance and lose focus on the future. And that's, to me, is where I keep leaning into, the words overused systems. But if, okay, what did I do right in order to land the job I have today? I made some phone calls. I checked in with there. I shot a few emails. I stopped in at the diner because I knew these guys were there every whatever it is.
Yeah.
All you have to do is say, okay, I just got to make sure I schedule 10, 15 minutes a week to consistently do those same things, because if I do, we know the outcome is work.
Yep. Yeah. We'll figure it out sooner or later.
It's just we do all that work to get work, and then we don't do any of that. And then when the work starts slowing down, we scramble to go do all the work we did to get the work.
Absolutely.
And I'm like, if you just consistently did a little bit of that every week, it should maintain a better trickle than having the cycle of busy, almost empty, or empty. So a lot of guys get into empty.
Yeah, we don't want to live in empty. It doesn't.
Right.
If we could just, get better at keeping a steady flow, instead of highs, lows, then we'd be much better off. And we're working on it. It's between that and the the kids, and my wife's starting a business as well, and that's probably she's smarter than I am on that. She's got her visions are always way higher level than mine. Like I'm like, hey, we'll just go do a couple house lots, we'll pay our bills, and we'll pay the tractors off, and maybe we'll buy some more, maybe we'll buy something else. Who knows? They shouldn't be wore out if it's just us. But
yeah. Your wife and I are probably more similar, and you and Tracy are probably more similar, because like we do fairly well. We do fairly well, and like we could just kind of ride it out, enjoy our life, have plenty for retirement. And like I started building this software, and she's like, why are you building this? And she's like, how many, to make money? I'm like, no, I said, I want to impact 20,000 families. I'm like, if I can help 20,000 business owners manage their business better, send better estimates, make more money, and have more control in their business, that should free them up to be able to be present with their families, because that's the gap all of us as business owners have, is finding a way to be present. Yeah.
I probably need that software. I don't know. We'll have to talk about it. But no, her visions, I mean, she's had some meetings with some pretty high level people, and I don't doubt her, because it would do no good to doubt her anyways. If it works out the way she's talking, then we're done working. It's not even the level you're talking about. She's thinking that Amazon's going to buy us out for multi-millions of dollars. I hope so.
That's awesome.
I mean, I'd be foolish not to hope so, right?
100%.
But then that's I don't know what I would do that much money. Probably buy some more tractors. I'm sorry.
Buy some more tractors.
Still going to go dig some dirt. Maybe get some bigger ones.
And what I've learned, and we're not there yet in our family, but I've started talking to some people and understanding that is like, when you get to a certain financial threshold, you stop looking at retirement and investments, and you start having to look at trust and estate planning, because now you're planning for the next generation, not for your retirement. Right.
Yeah. I would say my mother's probably at that point, right? Like, she's not quite retired. She's on the cusp, and, her husband's retired, and, they're fine. They don't need to work anymore. And they're just figuring out how they're going to enjoy, they love to travel. I think they're going to Italy next month, stuff like that. And I'm like, have fun. I'm not going. I'm staying right here. And,
you earned it. Go deserve it. You deserve it. Go do it.
Enjoy it.
Yeah.
Just don't give it to a charity when you're done. Don't give it to a charity. We'll take care of it. We'll have to get grandkids spend it or something. We'll buy some more go-karts to go racing with.
There you go. That's funny. What's it like working with your dad every day? Does it bring back? Is it enjoyable every day, or do you guys still have moments where you struggle and disagree? Do you have you're the dad, so you overrule, or how's it work with you and Pops?
We get along on, I would say, 95% of stuff now. It's funny you say that. A couple years ago, when we were doing a bunch of house packages, my sister ended up losing her job, and she's a few years younger than I am. And she's like, "Hey, do you have anything I can do, just to make a buck?" I'm like, sure, you can watch my kids. I'm like, I'll pay you to watch my kids, and I'll go to work. And she's like, no, No, I'm good. Which should kind of give you paint a picture for how well my kids behave. They're tough. They're fun. They do crazy stuff all the time. So I was like, wow, we're putting a lawn in. You want to come rake some lawn today? This is gonna be easy. Shouldn't be bad. Dad's trucking the dirt. I'll level it out. We'll get it leveled out. We'll throw some seed and hay. It's not that bad of a day. It was in the fall. It wasn't even hot out. So we were there, I don't know, a few hours, and we had to go get something. I can't remember what it was, but as soon as we get in the truck and we take off, she's like, is he like this all day? Like, what are you talking about? She's like, all he's been doing is yelling at me all day. I said, well, it hasn't been all day because it's only been half a day. I go, but if he's telling you to rake a certain way, there's probably a reason for it. Like he's been raking for 60 years. You can't reinvent how to rake low. Just at the very least, if you do it the way he's yelling at you to do it, he's going to stop yelling at you. Even if you think it's wrong, just do it. And that was where the age came in. I make the joke all the time. Like, I wish I was as smart now as I thought I was when I was 20.
Amen.
I'm sure that will resonate with plenty of people. But yeah, it's just, if he wants to do, in listening to the interviews you've done with other people, like, there's more than one way to do it. As long as the end result is the same, who am I to argue with the way he's doing it? And I always ask, I'm like, well, why are you doing that first? And he's like, well, if we do it like this, then this pile of dirt isn't going to be in our way, 3 days from now when we're trying to do this. I'm like, okay, well, that makes sense. I wish I would have, that's the things that I'm trying to pick up, that I haven't learned the 20 years we didn't work together, I can run machines. That's the easy part. Making the machine go, I make any machine go. But, the next step is, what are you trying to accomplish? So what are you going to do first, and what are you going to end with, and why is that making your job easier and more efficient? Because, if you move this pile of dirt over here, and then, a day later it's in your way, and you're going to move it back over here, and then it's in your way again, like, how many times you're only getting paid to move it once. And you might not even be getting paid to move it the first time. It might be just something that's in the way that's part of the job. So
it's part of the job. Yeah, and I'm sure you understand this too, being your father's at his age. But those old timers, they just look at you and go, I don't know, that's just the way I've always done it. And it's our job to read between the lines and watch the process. Because otherwise we don't understand why they put the dirt there or moved it there, right? They're not going to take time to explain it like a teacher.
You're right. And that, he's pretty good about that, and, we do all kinds of different stuff, right? We do septics. We do, the forestry mulching thing. I don't even know how we got started in that. He's like, I'm thinking about buying one of those. I'm like, okay. And we bought a Indeco mulching head that we put on one of his old Cabelcos. And we had a job for it, and we did a little bit. I'm like, post some pictures online. Yeah, we do this now. It's not, it's not rocket science. Just don't grind up too many rocks and keep going. And try and make it look pretty. That's the really where that process shines. Is it usually looks really good when you're done if you take your time and do it right. So yeah. And that's kind of where that's the premise of it too, because if you're trying to do more than just make it look pretty, you really should be pulling the stumps out. But, most of the time we just leave the big trees and mulch around them, and people let it go. At least they don't have to. Around here we have a lot of invasive species with, bittersweet and buckthorn and stuff like that, and multiflora rose. And so, that stuff's pretty nasty and makes your yard look crappy, and it just keeps crowding in more and more. Your yard gets smaller every year. So,
yeah, it definitely has a great purpose. It's just, you watch those young guys, they get a mulching head and they think they can land clear anything. And then I've seen it firsthand where like, we'll just mulch that and then you can put your site pad there. And I'm like, you can't put a site pad.
No. We use it quite a decent amount. If we, depending on how we end up landing a job, I've done Angie leads a little bit. I hit, pros and cons. It's gotten me some really good jobs a few times, and other times I'm like, I'm just chasing my tail, and I've already paid them the money, so you got to at least put some effort into going to look at this job, and at least hopefully recoup some, or maybe it's a good little fill-in job that you're going by. Well, you talk about those driveway grading jobs, like, well, if we're going from this house lot to this house lot, or whatever, these two jobs, and this thing's in between, and all we got to do is unload the machine for a couple hours and spread some gravel, then why shouldn't we?
Yeah. No, absolutely. So I don't know. I feel like every business needs to have just a couple core frameworks. So one is obviously leads. So how are you generating leads for your business? Is it, and then how are you managing them until you're able to get a yes or a no from them?
I used to keep it in a notebook, and then I felt like, this notebook gets left over here, then I'll start a new one. I'm working on being more organized. So now I have it in a whiteboard up in our kitchen, and it's like, we're getting to the point now where we're starting to get some repeat work. And I have several friends in the business, so we talk about what we're trying to do all the time. I have a couple of real estate agents I work with that if they've got a house that doesn't pass inspection for the septic, and we'll go in and we'll do a replacement septic and take payment at closing. So we try to schedule it a week or two before the closing and go put it in, and hopefully in a couple of weeks they actually sell the place and we get paid. We've made out well with that though, because we have some trust with the people we're working with now, and then some word of mouth. The house that we're supposed to start next week is a guy my father knew, and they contacted him about it. And now when my father's more retired, I guess I'm more the lead on it, but it's kind of his job. But I've bought most of the important equipment off from him now, so he's kind of being a little more of an operator these days, but he enjoys it. And so, but that is a guy that he actually works for an insurance company or a part owner or whatever. He sponsored the kids' go-karts last year. I just made a joke while we were looking at the job. It's like, hey, I spent a lot of money with your business doing insuring all this equipment. Your insurance company looked great on the side of these go-karts. We go, every week to this track and every other week to this track, and I'll plug your business every Facebook post. And he's like, yeah, that sounds great. And, saw him last week, and he's like, oh, you guys still racing? I said, well, my race car drivers aren't very well behaved lately, so they haven't really earned it yet. I said, I would have asked you for some sponsor money. I said, but I don't think it's going to get you very far if the go-karts are sitting in the trailer, So,
Right.
Yeah. We, but word of mouth from people like that. He's in a position where he deals with a lot of people, and hopefully we do a good enough job, and he refers us to some people. And my father's got a very good reputation around town. Of you'd have to try real hard to find someone that would say anything bad about him, personally or business wise, and that's really where we're trying to go or stay, I guess, with our businesses. When we show up, and I don't want to be the cheapest guy, and I don't. If I were, then I would run out of bandwidth. Honestly, you can't do every job. Like even my father says, you can't do every house in town. There's got to be. Where I feel like the market is relatively saturated around here with dirt guys, but we seem to keep picking up work, and part of my strategy with that is if we keep our overhead low, if times get tough, that might weed out some of the competition, and we should be able to weather it,
Yeah. I just had this conversation with a guy here in Illinois yesterday about him talking about how saturated the market is. He's like, I can't turn around without seeing a skid steer or a mini excavator on a trailer and another new business popping up. And he texted me yesterday. He's like, man, he texted me yesterday and he goes, excuse me. He goes, I'm going to start having a real hard time managing my workload for the next 3 months if I keep getting jobs the way I'm getting it. He goes, I just talked to a guy today who said, job's yours. Don't even want to quote, just work and send me the bill. I've called 4 other companies. None of them's called me back. None of them said, everyone that said they'd come look at it never showed up to look at it. And I just reminded him, I go, yeah, you may see a lot of trailers and equipment, but you also understand these guys aren't true business owners, and they're probably making your business look better because they're in the market.
We hope so. We hope so.
Right.
And that's entirely true. And I have a friend of mine he's a little younger than I am, and his father was great friends with my father. Unfortunately, he passed away too soon. But so my friend has been, building his own excavation company, and we unfortunately sometimes we spin each other up a little bit. Oh, did you see this new guy that's on Facebook? And then there's tons of people starting up all the time, and you can't fault them for trying. And I can remember telling my father this years ago before we ever started digging dirt together, and I said, the problem with excavation, I said, is any idiot dumb enough to go down to the bank and sign his name, they'll let him borrow the money to buy a tractor. I said, and he's your competition. I said, joked if we were plumbers or electricians, at least they'd have to have a license too, But
yeah, but and here's my constant reminder to everybody I talk to, Nicholas. There was a day in your history that somebody looked at you and said, there's the idiot that got the loan from the bank and he started a business. I mean, every person I've ever interviewed, ever talked to, I'm like, well, don't forget, there was a group of guys said the same shit about you the day you started your business.
Yeah. No, you're not wrong at all. You're not wrong at all. But I just, like you said, there's a lot of small guys floating around, and it's easy to, around here, it seems like the natural progression is you start mowing lawns, and that's an awesome thing to start with, because you're seeing homeowners on a weekly basis, right, or bi-weekly basis, and you're already working on their yard. Oh, well, we got this little project. Yeah, well, sure, we'll go rent a mini excavator and build you a little retaining wall, and it's the gateway drug. And before
and I think my favorite thing about those lawn guys, Nicholas, my favorite thing about them is you started that way. You truly understand scheduling. You understand maintenance schedules. You understand all the things that an operator doesn't have to think about every day, because they just got to show up, run it, and then tell somebody else when shit's not working right or when the job's not done on time. Those landscape guys, I mean, you're handling 50, 60 clients weekly, bi-weekly. Like it's a muscle memory thing that translates to excavation very well.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I didn't even think of it that way, but I was more along the lines of you're just constantly meeting with homeowners. If you've got that, you said it, at least 60 or so, and maybe more, depending on how much of a crew you're running or whatever. But if you had 50 homeowners and 3 of them do an addition every year over the course of whatever your thing is, but it adds up, and it's pretty easy to justify, I already could use a 1-ton dump to haul my lawnmowers around with and haul the grass clippings off. And then, I already have a trailer to move the lawnmowers, and we're going to have a tax write-off this year. What's $60,000 on a skid steer? And then we put a set of forks on it. We use it to move around our hydro seed stuff. Whatever, before you know it, you grow. And good, great for them.
Absolutely. Do your kids enjoy coming out and getting the equipment and playing around? Like, do you see maybe a potential future for them with this business as they age?
I joke with them all the time. I said, well, you're going to be an electrician because you don't like to pick up after yourself. I said, you're going to be a plumber. And then, maybe we'll figure out how one of you can be like a well driller or something, because that seems pretty lucrative, but it's also a big cost to break into. So, maybe we can sell a few tractors and buy a well drill rig. I don't know.
Yeah.
But they're going to have to go apprentice from someone, because that's not something I can teach them. And I'm happy doing what I do. So they can, I've let a few of them try running the equipment a little bit. And they're, unfortunately, the generation that loves tablets and Pokemon cards and all that stuff, none of them seem to really run out to get into the stuff. But unfortunately, the way they behave a little bit means I have to be a little bit more of a parent, a little less of a friend some days. So maybe that's why they'd rather not come out and go to work with me.
They don't want to be with dad. He yells at me enough at home. I don't need to get that out there too.
That could be it.
That could be it. That's hilarious.
The
That's
go-kart racing
hilarious.
it's a ton of fun, and they do well at it. It's not that they can't drive. They can all drive if they wanted to. They're all super smart. They can do anything they want to do. It's a matter of figuring out what they want to do. So, well, I hope
Right.
so. Maybe one of them wants to work with me, and maybe we'll. I can remember my father saying, "Hey, if you're not going to come work with me, I'm not going to grow this business." And after that, he stayed a one-man band. So maybe I'll be in the same boat. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it worked out well for your father. So the beautiful thing is there's no wrong answer.
Right. Yeah. I mean, sure thing. You start out and you end sooner or later, and got to survive along the way. Hopefully, have some fun, and that's about it. Don't stress out too much about it.
That's great advice right there. Great advice right there. Man, this has been a great conversation. Is there anything that is on your mind that you wanted to talk about at all before we wrap up?
No, it's a good trade to be in. The trades are where I think people that like to work and don't want a boss. You can make them. As long as you're willing to take on some of that business responsibility, it's you can't beat it. You can pound nails, you can do whatever you want to do. You just can't be afraid to try. And then it's something to say with talking and listening about the guys that are growing their companies. It's a lot of it's being willing to step out of your comfort zone in order to grow. And and you talk about being comfortable and complacent with where you're at, and that's kind of where we are right now. We've got the 6 excavators. We've got, I think, 2 or 3 house lots, and that's a few weeks worth of work for each one. Off and on, if not a little more. So between my father and I, we get a few house lots and a couple septic systems lined up, and we've got 3 or 4 weeks worth of work to do, or 3 or 4 months. But we try to. And when I paid off the big excavator, that's when I got the skid steer with the mulcher, and that's been fun. We've tried to. I tried doing a trade show a while ago, and thought that was going to have a lot of help with bringing business into that sector, and I got 0 phone calls. So, but also the season could have been a little wrong too, and just have to keep trying to put myself out there, and if we get too much work, I don't know what we do. I had a kid work for me a couple summers ago, and he did great. It was fun, and but I definitely, after listening to some of your stuff about having that clear expectation employee handbook, it would have been nice to be like, hey, no kidding, if you show up and I'm not here, these are the things, just go do them. And he was super young. He was 17, 18 years old, and great work ethic. He actually ended up going, over the wintertime, he was still part-time school, part-time showing up. And I'm like, hey man, I really like you and I really like having you around, but I can only pay you to clean in my garage so many days before, I should be cleaning in the garage. And so he went and worked for that general contractor that I had started with, and he's still working for him. I think they bought a mini excavator and a tractor, and they're doing as much of their own site work as they can now, and he's kind of in charge of it. So I trained my competition.
That's
awesome. It's fine.
Well, and listen, in my opinion, you did exactly what every good owner should do, right? You should train them to a point they could go start a business.
Right.
You just didn't have the stuff in place to treat them so well and give them so much guidance they don't want to go start their own business.
Well, and that's the thing. That's where I'm hesitant to hire anyone is if, I guess, getting through that point where, hey, you got to be, make that 10 or 15 minutes a week to go make sure you have that work 4, 5, 6 months out. And then it wouldn't be as big of a risk, right? Like that personal, responsibility feeling of, hey, I promise this guy I've got work for him. He can, put money in his pocket every Friday, and 6 months from now, when we don't have anything, I don't have the reserves to keep paying him to not work. We're not at that point yet, and hopefully, right, another year or two, they'll find out if my wife's going to make us millionaires or not, or maybe the 10 or 11-year-old would be, I can put him in a skid steer or something.
who knows where the future is going to take you, man. You got a lot of possibilities there between kids, business growth, your father, your wife. You're in a great place. That's kind of my favorite place to be, where there's a lot of bright opportunity. We just don't know which path we're going to be walking down. I think that's the funnest point in life to be at, for myself anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, we're trying to have some fun, and try and take some time off in the winter when things do get slow, and instead of just trying to beat ourselves against the weather and beat on equipment, hey, we just take some time off, fix some stuff. We have my mother has a vacation home like 3 hours north of here. There's a ski mountain. There's, much better snowmobiling than there is down here. And we usually do at least a couple weeks up there. And we're talking about maybe we'll do a little more this coming year if we put some more pennies away, and maybe we can get up there and enjoy it, more like 3 or 4 weeks this year or something like that. That's
awesome. Well, that's so cool, man. Well, Nicholas, I can't thank you enough. Take time out of your day. I know it was a snow day, so in Illinois we probably would have closed down the schools. They've gotten so bad. I feel like we're in Texas. Oh, it's going to drift some snow. We better shut down. I'm like, come on. But I appreciate you taking time out of the day. Join us on the show. Love your story. Thanks for being so candid with us and sharing like that. I think a lot of guys are going to be inspired by what they heard from you today.
Well, I mean, you can't be afraid to try, right? When we first started, we had that one excavator. We could afford to pay for that excavator with just keeping my normal job. And, listen to a lot of the guys you talk to, that's kind of where they start. Like, hey, or they rent, right? They rent until they can justify buying a machine. And that, I don't know why I hate renting, but I like buying. I want to own them. I want to have a whole yard full of tractors. It's not the right thing to do probably sometimes, but one excavator breaks down. And actually, speaking to that, my father's friend, he always had a bunch, and he was a one-man band. He's like, well, if I buy this pretty decent used excavator for say $50,000, right, and I put it on that house lot over there, he goes, well, I do 2 or 3, and that thing kind of pays for itself. He goes, and then I got another one over here on this house lot. He goes, I don't ever have to take time to load that thing up and bring it over to the other lot. And he's like, so it seems inefficient. He goes, but once that one's paid for, it can just sit there. And then I can have 2 or 3 jobs going, and I don't waste any time moving machines. He goes, it sits there for the whole job. And I'm like, sometimes that makes sense.
Sometimes it does.
Machines, they're not pretty. They've all got 5, 6, some of them 7, 8,000 hours on them, but we maintain them fairly good. And those Cabelcos, the most we have is got Isuzu motors. They seem to run forever. So as long as the rest of the machine holds together, how can you it's hard to justify selling something that you're going to get $25,000 or $30,000 for when you say, well, I can go put it over on this job and we can do another septic system and, say we make $5,000, $10,000 with it, it can sit there till we find another job to drag it over to, as long as, the property owners don't care. And the other thing too, is you got that many machines. None of them ever seem to get a lot of hours on them. So, my father bought a Cat 313 a couple of years ago, and it had like 3,000 hours. Honestly, that's been one of the biggest pain in the butt machines we've had as far as emissions issues. The old phone Cabelco, you turn the key, it starts, and it goes. It might make some weird noises, and it might smell like the mice have been living in it for a while, but the check is the same number when you're done moving the dirt. So you can't be afraid to try.
Absolutely. No, yeah. I do think we're at that point now where the corporations are always looking at every way to save a penny, not a dollar, a penny.
Yeah.
And then we're adding more and more technology. So we're increasing all the way across the board, all these fault points, failure points, and then the cheaper parts to a point, if you could just go buy and find parts for 1990s equipment, you could make a lot of money. I know. Yeah. They're easy to work on. They were bulletproof.
We've had good luck with them, and we don't push them too hard, and you kind of know the limitations of what you have. But the new stuff is great when it runs, but the same, like you said, it's not simple to work on. You got to pay someone to come out with a computer to fix them half the time. And it just, I see why this machine might have got traded in, but we've worked through the bugs now, and it's nice. It's the nicest, newest machine we've got, but some days the old simple stuff is hard to beat, especially, you guys talk about, grade control and 3D, and I'm like, oh, all that stuff is wicked cool. It'd be nice to just plot it out on the screen of the machine and have it half do itself. But
well, you can.
Yeah.
But Nicholas, you can. Those new systems by CHC Nav that I've been talking about here and there, my friend Chuck at Benchmark has, they can add on to any machine, because you're setting your own sensors, your own antennas, your own CPU, your own display screen. It literally just needs power. That's it.
I think we will definitely, as my father does a little less, and before I get serious about hiring someone, I think I would just invest in something with a good, even just 2D. That's all we really need. We're pulling grades for a basement, or pulling grades for the bottom of the septic system. And other than that, we don't really do any big jobs. House lots are, what's a couple acres? You don't need anything fancy for that.
Nicholas, I'm telling you, you can be all in, fully installed, done, trained with the easy nav systems. And the easy nav doesn't allow you to upload prints. It just, you're going to build design on the unit itself. Big deal.
Yep.
You can be all in and done for like less than 18 grand per machine.
Oh, that's not bad. I figured around 20.
Why would you buy 2D at that point? That's my question.
Oh, I wasn't aware of what type of system you were talking about. I thought that was like their 2D version or whatever. But
no. It's full 3D, full GPS, full everything. You just can't upload files to it. You gotta build off the screens. But if you're at a house doing a septic system and you build and mark out the leach field, the tank, and everything else, you can save that as a project. So if you have an issue 5 years from now, you know exactly where everything's at. Yeah. You want to set a trench line for 2 miles? Do it.
Yeah, that's sweet. Yeah, we don't do anything.
Slope, everything.
We're doing, like I said, a couple acres for a house lot is big around. We've kind of gotten a little more rural than I like, or a little more city-like, I guess, urban. But is what it is, right? The lots are getting smaller, and it seems like the ones where it's either a hole that we got to fill in because it's a swamp, or it's a pile of ledge and we got to blast a hole in it to put something in. So that's next week's job. But yeah, it's definitely the right way. I think for us, we do enough small, go in we do septic systems there for, maybe a 4-bedroom house. It's not big. It doesn't take we're in and out in a few days. Hopefully, if our biggest holdback is our town inspections, if you can schedule those so that you can get in and out, then it's great. And we've done enough work in this area that we get, have a good rapport with the inspectors, and some of them are like, hey, I'm not supposed to, but snap a picture of that and send it to me so that I know that you did what you said you did. And I have something on my file that I can say, that we did it. And he's like, just keep going. Don't wait for me. He's like, I won't be able to make it there for, another day. And I don't want to hold you back. We have that trust. So.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh man,
yeah, we could definitely talk all day. Especially, I've been listening.
I was just thinking
stuff lately.
I was just having that same thought, but I've got some other appointments today. I don't want to hold you up for the day. This has been great.
My day's pretty well hosed up. By the time I get done with this, I had to go out and work on fixing some stuff to be ready for next week, but no rush.
Nice.
And then the kids will be home, and then chaos. So we'll deal with that. It'll be fun.
Nice. Well, this has been great. And if you guys are listening to this, if you want to connect with Nicholas, we're going to put his link to his personal or business Facebook page on the show notes. So you can just open up expand the show notes, click, send him a message, tell him, hey, heard your podcast. Thanks. whatever you want to do. We're also going to have the link for the new Toolbox software in the show notes. So it's free to try out, no credit card required. You get 5 free estimates. AI helps you write it. We schedule it on your daily task list. It makes your life easier. Guys are using it, and I'm getting text messages and feedback every day. So please do me a favor. If you've been listening to the show and you like it, go try it. What doesn't hurt? Doesn't cost you a penny.
Yep. Nice.
So cool.
Yeah,
well, until next week.
If you don't mind.
WPMExcavation.com. We'll throw that in there.
Yep. We got a pretty good website.
Awesome.
We could have another conversation about marketing, some trials and tribulations there sometime. Let me know.
Nice. Hey, you're welcome. Until next week, guys, keep working hard, keep grinding, work on those frameworks, and we'll see you on the other side. All right. That's a wrap on today's episode. One last thing before I let you go. Go try Toolbox. Seriously. If you've ever finished a job and realized you left money on the table because your estimate was unclear, or you had to do rework, or you've sent an estimate 2 weeks late, or you just can't keep track of what's actually going on in your business day to day, that's exactly what this fix is. It's literally the reason we created it. AI helps you write the estimate. You track the job, you send the invoice, your dashboard tells you what you need to do every single day. It's free to start. 5 free estimates, no credit cards. You've already done the hard part. Let Toolbox handle the part that should have been easier a long time ago. Toolbox.com, TULBOXX.com. Try it today. Links in the description.